Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Prodigal Son. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break this down. I really quickly want to bring up the fact is I love it's like an interesting little tidbit of like, even though Malcolm didn't go on his vacation like he was supposed to, it turns out, in fact, in this particular episode, like it takes place like he actually went on that 2-week vacation and came back. To be fair, he didn't really go out like he was supposed to. He just stayed inside and reading, which it kind of defeats the whole purpose. But for him, it's like, yeah, didn't do with any murder. So it's like, yeah, it was on, it was a good vacation. I was still kind of hoping on some level, like even if he did go on his vacation, he still ended up having to solve a case. Because I like it in TV shows like that when it's like, oh, you're away from your job, but you still, like in crime dramas and police procedurals, I kind of like episodes like that. So I was kind of hoping something like that would happen in Malcolm's case. Not that case. It didn't happen, but still it's just interesting to know that, yeah, the vacation came and went, and the fact is he read. But what interestingly enough, Jessica ended up getting a tip on the line about the girl from the suitcase, the box. So now the situation is like, okay, obviously Malcolm's like, wait, so you want to go by yourself? And she's like, yes, until my nosy son kind of got involved. So it's like, okay, they go to like this carousel, and there they find a body, which Malcolm immediately tells his mom not to look. Because I think for her, like, she's known about all this stuff. She knows what her son investigates. She knows what, I'm sure she's seen probably like crime scene photos of what Martin did, but to see it in front of you it's a different thing, because once you've seen it, it kind of stays with you, and he didn't want his mom to kind of dealing with that, especially if it's like something that she came up, like, especially because it's like, oh, this person's supposed to be a key figure in all this, and having to piece to this information about who this mysterious victim was that Martin killed. So but now it's like, all right, we're trying to figure out who this particular victim was. And I love the whole Idrissa situation, because they're having a whole conversation. She's like, well, you're completely wrong. And she's like, I didn't mean for that to be as aggressive. She was kind of like hoping it'd be kind of a little back and forth between them. She's like, I just really missed you. And then I love that Jessica's looking like, what? And Gil just looks to her and just like, you get used to it. Because the thing is, Jessica is unaware of the whole Idrissa and Malcolm relationship. Oh, dude, it's a special, beautiful relationship. I love it. But the fact of the matter is, so it's like now it turns into a situation of everything getting complicated, because it turns out the killer calls into the news station that Ainsley works at. In fact, it's going to be like her first day, kind of like kind of being like forefront of the programming and stuff like that, and she's on the phone with the killer, and he's making all these accusations. It seems like he specifically killed the person. He's like, I'm the carousel killer. It's because of Jessica Whitley, saying that the fact of the matter is she's not as innocent as people think she is. She likes to pretend like she's a good person when in fact she's not. So it makes you think like, okay, so this person going to expose some skeletons from Jessica's closet or something like that. I was wondering what the direction this was going. Obviously Malcolm is trying to keep his mom from like being all caught up in all of this, so he's telling her just to go home. But for her, she ends up finding out about it, and she wants to, well, especially because whatever, at the police station, and obviously they were and I love that even under the circumstances, before things really got to where they were, she was like, oh, her mother's side of things just kicked in, which was like, oh my god, that's what Ainsley's wearing. Oh my god, like obviously before she found out what the whole situation was, but the moment she found out, like, wait, like he wants $1 million or the next victim is going to be on Jessica, like she wants to pay it, but obviously Gil is like, New York, kind of the police have a policy against essentially paying like ransom situations like that. It's like, it's the same thing of like the US doesn't negotiate with terrorists. It's kind of a similar thing. But for her, she doesn't care. She's like, I don't give a flying. And it's like, Mom, just calm down. Let us investigate this. Let us stop this bad guy. And so there's a lot of complicated stuff with this whole situation, because at first it's the whole thing of like, well, Ainsley kind of being trapped in the middle of it, and obviously Malcolm goes to her and is like, hey, let's kind of work around this, here's some like, but Ainsley's like, you don't have to line this up for me on how to handle this situation in case the killer calls again. I've got this. But they get an unexpected caller. It ends up being Martin, and I love it. Martin's chewing up the scenery, just like, oh, hey, I'm glad to be on, and everything. He's loving it, and then it's like, oh, so that's the picture you chose for me. I mean, it's not really that flattering, but Okay. I love it because it literally looks like a picture of him, Matt. I think it probably came from the video they recorded, you know. So I just thought that was such an interesting thing, and and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm figuring this out. He's just trying to say like, oh, stuff about the killer and stuff like that, about like it's probably not about the money. And then Malcolm asked the question, and Ainsley asked that question. He's like, oh, a producer asked that, huh? Very insightful. Yeah, that the money might be a distraction and stuff like that. And before he really gets into it, he's like, oh, looks like my phone privileges, I'm running out of time. Like, well, have me on for another segment. I'll be happy. It's like I said, he's just chewing up the scenery. And then the killer calls in immediately afterwards because they're thinking like, oh, you're kind of taking me as, a joke in this whole situation. And it's like, the fact of the matter is you have a certain amount of time before I kill the next victim in all of this. Because if you don't, if Jessica doesn't pay me the $1 million, in particular this place where Jessica and Martin met. And obviously you have Malcolm calling her and she's like, oh, hi, any updates? And he's like, yeah, where did you and your dad meet? She's like, oh, it's so long ago. He's like, you're going there, aren't you? And she's like, she feels responsible because she blames herself because she's the one who put this reward out there, and now people are dying because of her. So that's why she was kind of, blaming herself. Because initially they were thinking maybe the killer was someone that was connected to the victims of Martin. Because at first one of the people was the Lair brothers, because basically they went to prison because their mom was a victim of the surgeon, but it wasn't found out until 3 years later. But in that 3-year period, they went to jail. Obviously, Jessica tried to get a settlement, but they still went to trial and they went away for it. So that's why they're thinking at first they had some, but someone came to them, but one of the brothers, Noah, went along with the plan while the other brother was like, let the past stay in the past, so. But now it was such a situation of Jessica going along with everything, and when it gets to the time to be there to deliver the money, the killer's like, yeah, I have this victim right here. If you don't take the money out and dump it out, which she does, and the killer still kills the person anyway. It turns out to be Noah. And so the whole thing is and the way Malcolm ends up describing, the whole point was kind of to cause this issue amongst his family. Because obviously the whole the Whitley family is being targeted. It's interesting because I wonder if he had more time, would he have ever gotten to Malcolm? Because he strikes Ainsley and then he strikes Jessica, but I think it's out of the three of them, they are the two more public figures, because to be fair, Ainsley kind of did a whole expose on her dad and everything, but also Jessica being a socialite and everything, so they're very prominent, whereas Malcolm works with the police and stuff like that, and not everyone knows, because obviously he goes by the name Bright, so no one knows that he's Martin Whitley's son, so he has that anonymity that his mom and sister sadly don't have. So I think that's why it came down to that. Because, Malcolm decides that he's going to end this and go talk to his dad, because he hasn't seen his dad in that 2 weeks, because obviously he was away on vacation. So he goes to, talk to his dad about the whole, trying to figure out, because he's starting to think, these people were referred to as accessories. So it's okay, so then maybe the first victim, the one who had the fingerprints burned off, was labeled as an accessory. So it's okay, so maybe they were an accessory to Martin, but he didn't recognize the dude. And then Jessica gets a call about, hey, here's this person that's missing. I've taken. If you want to save her life, you have to kill Martin with this ceramic weapon that I gave you. And obviously she shows up there after Malcolm had already started talking to Martin. And I love him just kind of being like, oh, how was vacation? Talk to me. Oh, you want to talk about the case and everything. Oh, you want to talk about work? All right, we can get down to that. So that was interesting. And then also, Jessica showing up. He's like, wow, when was the last time we were together? I think it was that pumpkin thing. And Jessica corrects him. I'm pretty sure it was at your murder trial. And he was like, Right. That's right. And so it is a situation of because obviously Malcolm is doing his thing of profiling his mom, being the fact is the way you're acting something's off and everything. And Martin's I even love him being, because she's like, oh, just some alone time with your dad. It's like, he's like, I don't think we have any conjugal visits. I don't think I'm allowed any conjugal visits. I mean, I've kind of messed up a lot of my privileges, so a lot of my privileges have been revoked. But then there's that whole situation of like, it's like, oh, look at my boy, look at him go, profiling you. And then Malcolm was like, shut up. And Martin's kind of like, okay. And then when it comes down to it, and Malcolm figures out, he's like, you were sent to kill him. And I love Martin be like, excuse me, wait, what? And it's like kind of figuring it out. And it's like, yes, but and it's like, but I like Malcolm being like, you don't have to do this, Mom. You are a good person. But if you do this, you're going to become a monster like him. So don't do this. But then like Martin's kind of edging her on by being like, oh no, I see it in her eyes. Like she wants to do it. It's actually kind of interesting how this does. I mean, because the whole point of this, it does come full circle. Because I forgot to talk about the intro where, it's so weird to know that how late in his life Malcolm still had a relationship with his dad. The fact is, obviously, it's like, yeah, he's working on stuff for college and about serial killers and stuff, and they're having that back and forth, and he's like, oh yeah, this particular dude who decapitated people, and he's like, Malcolm, please, not before dinner, not before like breakfast or lunch or whatever. But then it's the whole thing of like, if you were to kill me, like, how would you do it? He's like, oh, come on, I wouldn't, it's like, yes. He's like, besides, I'm handcuffed and everything. It's like, well, if you weren't handcuffed. And he starts listing off the different ways he could kill Malcolm, some of the ways being fast, some being a little slower. But he's like, obviously, I would never kill you because you're my son. And then he tells Malcolm, he's like, would you kill me? Then Malcolm looks around the room and sees like 3 different places on how he could go about killing Martin. But he's like, no, of course not. But you see in Martin's eye, he kind of got glimpses of that in Malcolm's eyes. He's like, yeah, right. Like he had a feeling like, no, if the need be came, you could. And obviously it comes full circle. Well, that was in 2007, literally 13 years later, where Malcolm has a weapon. And obviously it's like, the fact of the matter is, it comes out like, you tried to kill me. And Jessica's like, wait, what? He's like, no, that's ridiculous. He's taking the words of John, a serial killer, over. And Jessica's like, what? A serial killer? And he's just, obviously Martin, I don't think it's hard to say, because Martin says all that stuff because he's trying to egg, he's trying to egg Malcolm on, and I was like, it had to be for a reason. But I was so curious, like, what that was going to be about, because I was like, because that's what I mean. It's hard to say whether or not he really was trying. I don't think he was. I think John might have been foolish or maybe it's just that's what Martin told John. Like I said, I get the feeling like the whole thing was more so to make Malcolm more like him. So I think the whole point was for him to kill John. But then I'm like, that's, like I said, I mean, he ends up stabbing John and they ended up leaving afterwards. So that makes me think like that kind of went the way Martin wanted to be. Like, I think Martin's hiding his true agenda was he wanted to make Malcolm more like him, into a killer. And the fact is, the whole point was to kill that girl, but it wasn't for them. It was supposed to be for Malcolm. But Malcolm stabbing John, in either way, being like, oh, that kind of served the same purpose. Maybe, potentially, I don't. It's really hard to say in that regard, but I think what he's saying in this moment is just he needed Malcolm pissed off so that Malcolm would stab him. But they make reference to something. He's like, yeah, just like that, and it's like. And Malcolm was like, are you sure about it? Martin was kind of, yeah. So it's like, he wanted to get stabbed. And I was like, how are you going to get around this situation? Because you're supposed to be stabbed in the heart. But we kind of get a cutback later on to the past where the conversation was about, like, if you hit it in a certain way, you can make it so that the weapon, of a certain size, doesn't pierce to the heart. And even if it does, it can go in without there being too much damage, but it has to be a pretty precise stab, because if you miscalculate it, even the greatest surgeon wouldn't be able to kind of repair the damage that's been done. So under these circumstances, like, obviously they take him to a hospital, and this draws out the real killer, because we ended up finding out, because Martin had pieced it together, like the victim that had been kidnapped and the one that was dead at the carousel. He realizes there are 2 people that helped him during a surgery. He's only had 1 person ever die on his table. It's not because he killed him, because for him it's like he is a bit of a professional. He separates his side business of killing and his profession of being a doctor. So he would never purposely kill anyone. Like, he was a perfectionist at his work. But it's like, yeah, she had a defect and it was just kind of like something he couldn't do anything about. Well, it turns out her husband has been blaming him this entire time, being like, oh, you're the one that killed my wife. You're a serial killer, so you did it on purpose. So that's what this is all about. And Malcolm and the others end up capturing him. And, the confrontation becomes a thing of like, the fact of the matter is, why now? Because for him, he had seen a thing recently about, the Whitleys, just like I said, popping up all over the place. They're just all up in your face. So he wanted to get revenge against them. Because at first I was assuming like the whole Jessica thing, because it's like, especially getting Jessica to stab him, because it's like getting you to do what you couldn't do before. You want to kill the surgeon. You've wanted to kill the surgeon the moment you found out. So it's kind of like, it's almost a poetic justice in the killer's eye, because it was more so like you were able to finally rectify a mistake. Like if you had just done this sooner, maybe other people would be alive. But also it's like you want to do this, you just never had the opportunity to. Now I'm presenting this opportunity to you. The fact of the matter is, to save people's lives, you were willing to toss away $1 million. And so it kind of shows like, hey, the fact is that you are serious about this. So it shows her sincerity and wanting to save lives, that she isn't like her husband. Because obviously it's something that she has to constantly deal with, because people are always going to be associating her with Martin, because it's like, how could you not know? You're just as liable for all those like victims in the whole situation. So that kind of gets thrown at her even in this regard. So in his mind, he thinks he's doing a good thing by like, hey, I'm giving you an opportunity to rectify a mistake, essentially. But for him, he feels like the Whitleys kind of get away with everything. They get to be happy. And he's like, why do I have to be remembered that my wife is gone and like she died because of Whitley? It's like, the fact of the matter is, why do they get to be happy? And in that moment, Malcolm was like, we don't. And it's like, they don't. They've been living with this for the past decades. Like, the fact is, they feel it. Like the thing of like, this person that we care about, our dad, my mom's husband, like, he was a killer right under our nose. This person we love and cherish so much ended up being a monster, and we didn't see the signs. We didn't know, so they have to live with that. They live with every victim, especially in Malcolm's case, because he studied the cases back and forth, so he knows them inside and out. Jessica knows them just as well. And you can assume just because of the journalist that she is, Ainsley obviously knows it as well. So it's not like those ghosts don't follow them everywhere that they go. They try to have a normal life, but you can tell they put them on a brave front, but they are miserable and broken, trying to find some semblance of normalcy and, stay together through this tragedy, of having, Martin being the surgeon, the serial killer that he was. But the moment, like, the dude was like, wait, you're the son, when he heard Malcolm say all that. And he's like, the fact of the matter is, I made things better because I got your mom to do it, and now she's free. He even tries to make Malcolm feel better, be like, I freed you of this nightmare. Because the fact is, Malcolm was trying to tell him, and he ends up yelling at him of like, how, look at you, you're justifying it. You're trying to say like, oh, because of Martin and everything. But it's like, that doesn't justify you killing those other people. They, like, that first dude was an innocent person. The woman you kidnapped, they were innocent people. Yes, they worked alongside Martin, but the fact is, you can't blame his crimes on them. You're just trying to find a means to justify the fact is that you've killed innocent people, because you dragged Noah into this, but you used him as a sacrifice to get what you wanted in the end. Yeah, he was someone that was hurt by the surgeon, and rather you worked with him until like you needed him to be, you treated him like an accessory, just killed him when it was beneficial to your plan, which, it sucks, It's like, especially because you took his brother away from it. It's like you felt like Martin took your wife away from you. You literally did that to his brother, So that's a whole thing of like, it's that thing of like what Malcolm was trying to prevent his mom from becoming by, her being the one to stab Martin. Because at least with Malcolm doing what he did, he kind of made it precise. So he made it so that maybe there's an opportunity he can come back from this, that everything will be okay. Because even Martin was like, oh, look at that, Malcolm's hands, they were steady as a statue. also kind of implying like like there's no like hesitation in the situation that if the time came like, oh, you would stab me full wholeheartedly even outside of these circumstances. But like I said, the dude was like, hey, I at least freed you from this nightmare. But the thing is, no matter what you do, there's no freeing Malcolm from this, because even if you kill his dad, it's going to leave him complicated, because it's like, yeah, my dad was a terrible person and he died. He's not a good person, but at the same time, which I even love Martin trying to justify, but been like, I've helped, consult on 3 surgeries, so yeah, I'm a good person. But it's like, no, regardless of all that, that's still his dad, and he loves his dad despite everything, because he loved his dad, and that love is, like I said, gotten complicated over the years, but it's complicated, so. And even Gills asked him at the end of like, what happened? He was like, it had to happen. It needed to be done so that we could catch the killer. So now it's like, is Martin going to be okay? Is he going to come out through this? And even like, Malcolm called up Ainsley, like, you need to come here, like, because their dad might not make it through. And this is on Malcolm, but it's kind of like, maybe Malcolm got what he always wanted, his dad to be dead. Hell, even the fact is, being the one to kill his dad, maybe that's what he's always wanted. So there's that angle of it. But at the same time, it's like, that's still your dad. And regardless of everything, there's still a part of you that cares about him, because there was a part of you that thought that, hey, maybe he cared about you prior to this whole, like, oh, he tried to kill you thing, which obviously that's going to be something we're going to be looking into. Like, was that Martin just egging him on to push him more so he isn't shaking, so that he has a stern, like, stab, to get him focused and angry? Or was it, or was there actually some truth to it? I don't think there was, but like I said, there was a lot to that kind of has to be unpackaged. So I'm so curious to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.